All right, what is going on, everybody? How you doing? Welcome to another episode of Talking Buffalo, your weekday daily driver for Buffalo Sports Talk and more. My name is Patrick Moran. Thank you so much for watching, for listening, however you consume Talking Buffalo. I appreciate you guys so much. A big shout out to both our sponsors, Sunny Reds, 1841 Aber Road, just on the way from Highmark Stadium. One of my favorite bars now in all of Western New York. Been out there all summer on the patio enjoying it. Great food, great vibes. I've done a couple live shows there, including one coming up next Thursday. Matt Perino and Jay Skirsk are going to be joining me there. One of my favorite shows last month, which ironically, a guest coming up here in just a second was with me for that. So Sunny Reds, also big shout out. Imperial Pizza, 2 locations, one near Main Street, I should say near Canisius College. The other one deep in the heart of South Buffalo, 1035 Aber Road, home of the best lunch special anywhere in town. Make sure you go check out Imperial Pizza. All right, I was referring to Sunny Red's early July episode. I was joined by the Bulldog from WGR and Son, who is with me today on the show. My man, Owen Parker, dude. What's going on, buddy? How you doing?
Not much, man. Good to see you again. I'm excited to chat some Buffalo sports with you and get together again. It's gonna be fun.
Yeah, I'm excited about it as well. We'll talk about the Bills roster a little bit. Cutdowns have come and gone. The practice squad has taken shape. Kind of know what team, for the most part, we're going to be looking at here as the Bills get ready to open up their season next Sunday night in Baltimore. Might sneak in a little bit of Sabres talk since I got you on the show as well. And I kind of want to talk about a few things from our last conversation, which I'll get to in just a few. But before we get real quick, man, how are things coming along now at WGR? Like I said, I had you on with the Bulldog in early July. Like it's like getting reps, you know what I mean? Every day is a learning experience for you, man. How are things going there over at WGR?
Yeah, no doubt. It's always every day I'm learning something new and I'm growing every day. It's been awesome though. I love working over there. I love what I do with them. I'm super lucky to work with Jeremy and Joe in the morning as I do. They're unbelievable dudes and great radio hosts. So I learn a lot every single day. And I love it. It's been great. All the support from people out there for the video stuff that I produce has been really great. We're hoping to get another bump once the season really gets underway here. But it's been awesome, man. I'm just ready for football to start.
I had Joe DiBiase on the show a couple days ago, and he went out of his way to give you some props, man, as not just with good producing, but like having a lot to do with the video stuff. And we spent some time talking about that. And look, you might be young and kind of new to the game, but sometimes having fresh minds in this kind of industry really helps. And kind of talk about the importance of adding that regular, consistent video component to the WGR and some of the stuff that, people get out of it because of that. Now that they can watch it on video, I talked about this with Joe. I'll tell you the same thing. When it was only radio, when that was my only option, I didn't get to listen to WGR very much in the morning. Jeremy and Joe, even Jeremy and Howard before that, because, that's in my car or at the office music. Or not music, radio. I'm not in my car that much, man. I work from home and I don't start till, 8:30. So I kind of lose that component. But now over the last handful of months, since it's been on YouTube every single day, I could come to my home office, my studio here. I put it on. Sometimes I'm watching them, but even if I'm not, like I might have that tab in the background and that's how I'm listening. I know the Canadian audience and Fort Area stuff is back too. So kind of talk about that a little bit. I think it's a big W for WGR.
It's massive. I know they had been wanting to do it for a long time before I got there, and they just were struggling to find somebody to come fill the role. And I think it's unbelievable for the station. I mean, at the most basic human level, you get to see who's talking to you. Like you get to look at Jeremy and Joe and Bulldog and Mike and really kind of connect. That can be a real factor in sort of connecting a face to a name and recognizing like, okay, this is the guy I've been listening to for 25 years on the radio. This is a real meaningful thing now. I can really comfortably know and recognize this guy if I go see him in public. It's good for the guys' brands. And then obviously for the station itself, it's a wider reaching way to get our voices out there. And I have been really lucky to jump in when I did and find the role that I did there with them, because I just think that this is where everything's going.
Yeah.
Radio as a business has been struggling. And I think that this is a way to kind of drag that medium into the modern era and sort of infuse a little more of my age group into really becoming habitual listeners to sports talk. And I think it's really beneficial for, like, not only for us in the station, but for people out there to get the inside sources that we provide at WGR, that in a more accessible fashion. I think, like you mentioned, like Canada, the app doesn't work up there, and if you're too far north, you won't get the signal on radio. And I get tons of people almost every day coming in, tuning in. Oh, we haven't been able to listen for years because the app doesn't work up here, and now we found this, and here we are. Now we're going to watch every day, because this, like you said, it's a perfect little segue to get yourself. If you want to get it in a tab open, you don't even have to watch it necessarily, but it's just a really easy way to put the station on and stay up to date with what we're talking about. And it's been massive. The growth has been huge. The numbers look great. Everybody's really enjoying it, it seems. And I'm super proud of the work we're doing over there and how much the hosts have embraced it. I mean, Jeremy and Joe are every day talking to the chat. They're doing new visual bits that I'm working on, and like, there's such a collaboration now to bring a new visual element to what was an auditory platform. And I think that can be really powerful for the guys and for the station.
You doing that, it opens the door for a lot of other possibilities. And one of them you just mentioned, which I think is important in whether it's radio, whether it's YouTube, whatever it may be now, but by being on YouTube, you're also giving the audience not just an opportunity to listen or to watch, but to be involved. You mentioned the chat. I've been, when I am watching, I look at the chat and it is very lively. It's also very colorful sometimes as well. But that's a component. And listen, I know for a fact, I've been doing this now for a while myself. Like when I have, say, a live stream, this isn't a live stream, you and I are recording this interview, but sometimes, like following Bills games, we'll have a live stream where the comments are flowing in the chat and people like to be involved. And that's a good way for them to be interactive with whoever the host is or the guest is by having the chat. So absolutely, man, it makes me very happy to be able to have WGR doing that now. And I just think it's a huge, huge step in the right direction. Before, when we get into some Bills talk here, I do want to kind of go back a little bit to last month. While everyone out there, let me indulge you guys for a minute here. Or so early July, and people have been listening to the show, I'm sure they've heard this. But I had an episode with your dad. It was going to be me and the Bulldog live from Sunny Reds. And I've known your dad for quite a while now. I've been a big fan of his for a long time. And through, believe it or not, yourself and my son, and we talked about this some on the show, we kind of became different types of friends because we had something in common and things to follow with each other and talk about through the years. So that was a lot of fun. And the episode that I had, we had always planned, Bulldog and I, to talk about that, like the journeys with our kids and sports and being a sports parent and some of the great things that come with it and also some of the difficulties and the challenges that come with it. And man, oh man, I wish I could take full credit for it. Like sometimes, I'm sure you're, if you don't know this already, you're learning this. I know your dad knows this already too. Sometimes the best episodes that you ever have are things that are not really planned, man. You know what I mean? Yeah. They just happen. So as it seems, because after I had you guys on, I can't tell you, to this day, not only was it probably my favorite episode, it was far and away the best feedback that I've had on this show in years, if not ever. And it was like, oh, it was such a, I loved hearing from Owen too in that perspective. And so did I. Let's just be real clear about that. Yeah. I wish I could say, man, that was the plan all along. But it wasn't. It wasn't at all. Literally that morning, I'll take people behind the curtain a little bit. Literally that morning, I said, hey, Owen, you want to come on too? You know what I mean? And it was because a couple other people suggested it. I wish I could have thought of it. I'm glad other people did, and I'm glad you came on because it just turned out to be an incredible episode. We got to see a side of yourself, a side of your dad, you know what I mean? A very
Right.
raw, emotional, real side that I thought was compelling and important for people to know about, man. Kind of now
Yeah.
that, we did that last month. So I'm sure you've had some time to just reflect on that and everything. Just again, tremendous, tremendous reaction and feedback from the audience. Kind of reflect on that a little bit because I remember you and your dad were even on the show saying, there were some things that were being discussed that you guys hadn't even really fully talked
Yeah.
about before.
Of course. I mean, it was that night to me is very special, not just because of all the feedback, but because of the conversation that me and my dad had. And like you said, there were things that maybe we hadn't entirely fleshed out in our conversations about my career and how it all ended. And I think that was a really powerful thing for me. I know, and I don't want to speak for him, but I know him pretty well. It was really powerful for him too. And just to be able to share that in a way that maybe can make an impact. If it helps one person, then that means the world to me, and I know it does to him too. And I was so grateful to be able to be open and honest about how my career went, how much I loved it, and how it all ended, how it came to a close, and just the way that I went through it all was really, it was a story that I've always wanted to share and that I do like to share with people because I think it can really help people. I think a lot of people get stuck in their lives doing something that maybe they don't necessarily believe in or want to be doing, and they're scared to make a jump into doing something that they're not sure of or that they don't know yet. And I think that fear can be paralyzing, and sometimes all you need is a little nudge. And I felt like I hope that maybe that nudged one person somewhere to do something that they really want to do. Because I did the same thing, and now I'm here doing my thing with GR, and I feel like I've found my purpose and my thing in life, and this is what I love. And to be able to go through a journey like that, you've got to have courage, and I think that seeing other people go through it can bring that at times. And so
I
I was really grateful for the platform to be able to have that conversation with him and with you, that we were able to show it to people and go like, this is what this is. This is how life can be. And it was really powerful, and it really means a lot to me. I'll never forget it. And I appreciate you for having us on to do that, because we had never talked about that publicly before like that.
I learned a lot from that episode. It kind of had me, reflecting a lot on myself, and I'm sure a lot of other people who have children. Look, someday, God willing, you'll have children, and maybe whether it might be sports, it might be art, it might be music, it might be whatever it is that they do. And I'm kind of always in self-evaluation mode. Like I go back and like what could I have done differently? You know what I mean? And I said this on the show
Right.
then, and I'll say it again. I'm not beating myself up over it. I was, by and large, a really good sports father. You know what I mean? I
Right.
wasn't pushing them through a wall every day or anything like that. But you start to say, man, I wish I could have done some things a little bit differently. And just sometimes when you get to like having a kid, whatever they perform at that they do well and they do it at a higher level, it's awesome. And it makes for great Facebook posts and Instagram posts and videos and all that. And it's so cool to share and be proud and boast. And it's awesome. But it does come with pressure and other
Right.
things. And sometimes I think parents, without even realizing they're doing anything wrong, it's not even that they're doing something wrong. It's just that maybe they don't even realize it. That pressure
Yeah.
that mounts that you put on your kid. Oh, Shane had 11 tackles and this and that and blah, 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 week after week and after week. And now there's an expectation that he's going to
Right.
go out there, and be the best player, one of the best players on the field, or you're going to be, the difference in every hockey game. You're going to be the best player on the ice every night. You got to be really careful as a parent how you kind of project pressure onto your kid. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, it's easy. It's fun. Like you get caught up in it because you're on this journey that is exciting, and you want to share it with people, and there's nothing wrong with that, in my opinion. But you've also got to be able to have the conversations with them where you say, "Listen, I'm not expecting anything of you. I'm just supporting you how I feel I need
Right.
to and how I want to. And I want to share with people because I'm proud of you and I love you." And that was always a conversation that me and him had. And that was what made me feel so empowered and in control of my own journey. And that's the thing. I said it on the podcast last month, and I'll say it again now. That is the number one thing that I'm grateful for in my career was I didn't have that pressure. I knew I could walk away if I needed to. And when I felt I needed to, I did.
Obviously, that was like my biggest takeaway from the whole show. But my sneaky little second biggest takeaway that has nothing to do with that. And I'm being honest with you here. It was a part later in the show. I don't remember what we were talking about, but it was something Sabres related. And you kind of got a little bit of, we'll say a mini rant, not a full on rant, but like maybe a little bit of a mini rant. And I didn't realize it at the time. I should have, but I didn't. I'm like thinking to myself in my mind, I'm like, holy shit, this is Bulldog's son. Yeah. And you just tell, I'm not even talking about, I'm talking about like the voice, the sound of the voice, the reflect, the way the voice was being thrown. I'm like, man, the apple does not fall far from the tree. And by the way, that is a huge compliment because like I said, your father is not only one of my personal favorites in this business, but far and away one of the most likable and most respected names in all of the Buffalo sports media over several years. So that was definitely a compliment, but it did catch me. I'm like, holy shit, man. It felt like I'm listening to the next Bulldog, and then you're your own person, and you're going to carve out your own path in your own career. So you know what I'm saying, though. There,
absolutely. I take that as the biggest compliment that I could receive because he's my hero. He's always been my guy. He's been my best friend for my whole life, and I've learned everything I know about what I do now from him, and I'm super grateful for it. I feel like I'm sort of I was brought up and without realizing it, watching sports every night with him and talking like we did, I was doing a mini show with him every night. And so I've kind of just always talked like this. And this is how I project and what I talk like. And I have opinions and I believe in them and I'll share them. And I just have always felt that way. And I feel really lucky that I was able to learn from someone like him that I think if I was able to disconnect myself from him in my own mind, I think I still would believe he's really good at what he does because he is. He's smart. He's funny. He's eloquent. He's able to get his points across and connect. That's his biggest strength to me is connecting with everybody. And I've always really appreciated that. And that's something I feel that I've taken from him and I will continue to run with because I love it. And because I love talking to people. I love talking to you and whoever I can. And I'm just super grateful to have been brought up with him and for him to have shown me what he's shown me, whether he knew he was showing me it or not. He did. And he's guided me in so many ways in my life that he'll never realize, but he really has. And I'll always be grateful for that.
Everything you just said, plus the one thing I would also add too about the Bulldog is he represented the voice of the fan before it was fashionable. Like now everyone, all these podcasts, myself included, we're all the voice of the fan now. But your dad was doing it before it was like fashionable to be like the voice of the fan. And that's always been one of my favorite things. One last question I'll ask you quickly. Different type of pressure, a little more fun kind of pressure, as opposed to say, when you're playing hockey and you become a highly coveted goalie and that kind of pressure on the ice. You ever feel like you got a lot to live up to because of your name right now in this business? You're getting your feet wet right now. You're learning about this business. And your dad is Chris, the Bulldog Parker. Again, a very well-known commodity in this market. And look, I'll say it again. You're your own person. You are going to carve out your own path. And awesome guidance to have and very lucky to have a guidance from somebody like your dad. But it's like, all right, well, he is also your dad. And that's a name to live up to in this business. Right. It is. That's just a fact.
Absolutely. And I knew that the second I decided I wanted to get into this. Sure. I knew that was going to be a thing, that I was going to be compared to him or whatever. I was going to have that following me. And I think a lot of people are scared of that or run from that. I'm endlessly proud of it. I know what I have to do to ever live up to what he's done in this business. I mean, he's been doing that afternoon drive show on GR for like 23 years. That is unheard of, and he is incredible at it. And I would love to one day be as talented and as strong as he is in that kind of role. But I know that I'm good at this too. And I know that I have things to say that people want to hear. And I have a different perspective from him while still having some of that,
Sure.
Fan speak, whatever aspect to me. And I love that. I feel driven to do the best that I can do. It's not pressure. I have a desire to be as
It's a
well
goal.
liked and well received as he is, and respected as he is, because he is, and I respect him so deeply and what he's accomplished in this business. I recognize how difficult it is to do what he's done, and I am, like you said, trying to carve out my own path. But I will never run from what he did for me and
Sure.
what he means for who I am. I will always embrace that, and I'll always talk about it. I will never shy away from that because of how much he means to me and how much I do take from what he's shown me and what he does.
Sure. And maybe pressure wasn't the right word. Motivation
Yeah,
could be used as a better word. And speaking of, pressure and motivation, real quick going now, I'm not sure how much, you have
yeah,
followed his journey, okay? But I need to speak on Sean Dolek here for a couple minutes. I just said, and I
absolutely.
meant it, having yourself and your dad on, one of maybe my favorite show that I've ever had. Another one that's right up there was last season at Imperial Pizza, early actually 2025. I had Sean Dolek on. Now, I have known Sean since he was a teenager. Not well, but I've known of him. His father coached my son for a year in Little Loop back in West Seneca. Shout out Tomahawks, 2014. His father was just a football guy through and through. That is a football family through and through. Sean was one of the most impressive conversations that I've ever had, ever, on not just on this show, just period. And you want to talk about a close-knit family. So, dude, I had him come to Imperial Pizza, and I thought it was just going to be me and him. I thought maybe because he's through UB, maybe a UB PR person would be with
Right.
him. No, it was Sean, and literally his family came. His entire family came
Good.
for that episode. His mom, his sister, his brother, who was a first-team All-Western New York player before him, by the way, as well. Anyway, so I get through this conversation, and at the end of it, I'm like, this dude is going to play in the NFL. Now,
Yeah.
I was right about that, obviously. What I was wrong about was the path that he ended up taking to get there. Sean Dolek being in the NFL right now and making the LA Rams, it's truly not surprising if you knew him and you know the kind of football player he is. I mean, this is the first and the only ever first team All-American from UB ever. And that includes Khalil Mack, by the way. No one else had ever done it before. But you want to talk about kind of getting shunned to where people get it wrong? Dude is a first-team All-American. He's a finalist for Linebacker of the Year. And he doesn't get invited to the Senior Bowl. Then he doesn't get invited to the Combine. Then he doesn't get drafted, okay? And it's just proof. It's proof, Owen, that sometimes the greatest NFL or sports talent evaluators out there with unlimited resources, they just get the shit wrong. There are
Right.
so many people out there that were wrong about Sean Dolek. I mean, come on, no Senior Bowl, no Combine. What more could the kid have done on the field? The book on him was he was too small or not athletic enough. Okay,
Right.
well, he's a football player, folks, and LA saw that. And to Sean's credit, last thing, then I want to get a quick comment from you.
Yeah.
Credit to Sean, too, because once he didn't get drafted, which, by the way, do you need a bigger chip on your shoulder besides getting snubbed by the Senior Bowl in the Combine to not get drafted? Like this kid didn't already have a chip on his shoulder. But to his credit, there were teams out there that were interested in him, including Buffalo. Him and his agent sat down and strategically figured out what his best path would be to making the team. Buffalo was surely in consideration, but he looked at that situation, he looked at others, and he said, the Rams is where I need to be. So a kid who spent all of his life going, living in Western New York, going to West Seneca, now is going to LA, out there all the way in California, knew what he was doing, got out there and played so well and made such an impression that, dude, this is almost unheard of. The last preseason game where guys like him try to cling on and earn a roster spot, he didn't even play. He was a healthy scratch. They were resting him because they already knew he made the team. Oh, and just as a Buffalonian, a Western New Yorker, and a sports fan, how cool of a story is this?
It's the best. I mean, this is Buffalo is a place unlike any other in terms of the community. And when we have an athlete like Dolak that has such a great story and goes through so much and is doubted the way that he is in the same way that this town is, it connects with everybody in the town. And I think it's just such a great story. It proves that your hard work can pay off. It shows that you believe in yourself. You can do what you want to do. And I love what he did. And you couldn't ask for a better situation, could you? I mean, you want to get drafted. Obviously, you always want to get drafted. It feels better to get drafted. But after you do that and you get to choose where you go, yeah. I mean, you get to go move out to LA. You know you got a path to the roster if you perform the way you need to, unlike many places like Buffalo, where even no matter what he could have done here, he wasn't making the team. It's just how the roster was constructed. Their linebacker group is set. It's just what it is. And so he did a great job of finding a situation that's going to work for him in a really good organization that's going to have a good team this year, I think. And I couldn't be happier for the guy. And I feel this way about almost every athlete that comes out of Buffalo, but this is just such a great story. You really love to see it.
Yeah, dude, I'm telling you. And look, sometimes everybody wants to get drafted, you're right, but once it got to be like the 6th round, I'm like, he might be better off not getting drafted because you could be a 6th or 7th round pick. Let's just say, I don't know, say you go to Washington or Philly or a team that maybe is already linebacker heavy that you probably don't have a really good path or an opportunity to make the team, but they pick you late anyway. They say, we'll take a flyer on this kid. He had good production in college and he's kind of behind the 8 ball, but getting the opportunity to choose where he would go, I think that really paid dividends for him. And again, I'm so happy, dude. I'm telling you, everyone out there listening, not just Sean, his family is awesome. His sister's incredible. His mother's incredible. His brother's awesome. It's such a cool story, man. And I'm so happy for him. And look, not only did he make that team, it might take some time, give it a minute, but he's going to matter. He's going to become a player in this league. Like, that's his next thing. He's not satisfied. He's happy to be in the NFL right now, but this is just step one. He's not just one of those happy to be here guys. He's going to be a guy who ultimately will make an impact for them. Anyway, let's take a real quick break, come back on the other side, and we'll get into some Bills stuff. All right, I am back here with Owen Parker from WGR 550. You know what's funny? No matter how many times I say your name, I can say the name Owen Parker 150 times. I'm always nervous I'm going to say Owen Poyer. In fact, when I was writing down some notes earlier, I had Owen Poyer. I'm like, oh, this isn't Owen Poyer. It's Owen Parker, man.
I got a call from a coach when Owen Poyer got drafted 1st overall from a coach that I don't even remember what tournament it was, but some summer league thing that I did. He called me. He's like, "You got drafted 1st overall?" Dude, I was a goalie. What are you talking about? And also, my name's not Power, so I get it a lot. Don't worry. I think Jeremy might have done it a couple weeks ago too. He called me Owen Power. It happens, so no worries.
So Tuesday night, I go to bed, and generally speaking, not as early as you because you're up producing on that show, so I'm not going to try to say I get up that early. But generally for me, I'm up, and I'm at my home office little studio here working my regular job and doing other things by 7-ish, maybe 7:30 a.m. every day. I decided I was up late on Tuesday night, and I decided, I'm going to sleep into about 10 o'clock. I'm going to sleep in for as long as I possibly could. I could get away with it on Wednesday this week, and I'm going to do that. So I get up, and I come in here, and I didn't even look at my phone, by the way. Another thing, too. This has worked for me. I don't sleep with my phone anymore near me. I have a real alarm clock, and I do not because I don't want to be tempted. Once I'm up, my first instinct is to go look at my phone, and then it wakes me up, and I don't like that. So anyway, I put my phone in my office with me. I'll tell you what I didn't have on my bingo card on Wednesday was coming into my office at around 9:45, 10 a.m. and finding out that Jordan Poyer is returned to the Buffalo Bills. signed, now practice squad, still though.
Right.
Similar to Micah Hyde last year in a lot of ways, just a former, all-pro safety returning to Buffalo last year. Micah Hyde came in the back half of the year. Jordan Poyer's here before week 1. And I do think that's a little bit different. And we'll talk about that. But, yeah, dude, Jordan Poyer signing to the Bills practice squad was not something that I expected to see.
No, me neither. And the news broke during the morning show. So the initial report was just that Poyer was signing with the Bills. It was not practice squad or 53. And so we had about 30 minutes before it was reported by Dan Rossini that he was going to the practice squad, where we're thinking, like, is he going to play for them? What's going on? Because this is not where you want to be if he's playing for you. And I still believe that. I'm much more okay with the move as it's a practice squad move, because like you mentioned, they did that with Micah Hyde last year. It is a little different because Hyde joined late in the year. This with Poyer really presents the opportunity for the Bills to say, like, if they don't like how things go with Cole Bishop early, they can just activate Jordan Poyer and see if he's still got the legs to do it.
Yeah.
And I don't believe it's as much of an indictment as it would have been if Poyer was signed straight to the 53. I still think it shows how little confidence the Bills truly do have in their safety room at this point in time. And I think that's a problem. I mean, that is not where you want to be. You drafted a guy in the second round last year. You don't want to be having to call a guy that looked, frankly, shot last year from Miami that you had just let go a year before. Yeah. You don't want to feel like you got to call that guy up. And the Bills had to call that guy up. And that's not a confidence inspiring move to me. I don't mind it. I like Poyer. I like what he represents as a leader and as a member of that locker room. But if he's on the field for them at all this season, they are in trouble. They are in trouble. Because he has not been, I don't know if you guys, he's not been working out, it seems like, that much this summer. He's been out traveling the world.
He's been in other continents. I follow him on Instagram.
Good for him. Good on him, because he didn't think he was going to play. But I think a lot of what the next few weeks is going to be for Jordan Poyer is going to be ramping up to get back into shape so he can try and play. And, I mean, he said, we heard from him, he's got gas in the tank, he thinks.
Yeah.
And so it's going to be interesting to see if he gets activated at any point this season, and if it's not because of an injury, that'll tell you a lot about how the Bills feel about their safety room and where they're at. And I would have a lot of concern about it if Poyer is activated without some sort of injury to a depth piece on that in that safety room.
Well, three things to that, and I'm glad you brought that up, because number one, the safety room, I agree with you. I think the Bills are concerned, and I think it's for good reason. I mean, look, Cole Bishop, now, if you want to be optimistic about it, he left you with a good taste in your mouth last Saturday at Tampa. He played a little bit early on, and he did a couple good things. But look, he's been hurt multiple times. Sean McDermott you just don't sense the confidence when he talks about Cole Bishop. Now, he's also said some good things about him, but, to say they're still looking for their other safety, it could be Cole.
There is something to be said for a couple of years ago when Bernard was hurt.
Yeah.
McDermott had very similar comments about Terrell Bernard before, and he went in and started, and he looked great.
Yeah.
So I do want to leave room for the coach is just trying to coach. It doesn't have to represent what they truly believe. And Bishop has missed time, and I do give him some slack for that, because it's hard. He's had no camp, essentially, in his NFL career. He's been hurt for both his camps. He's had no reps, and that's a tough spot to be. He's looked not great all the time, but I don't know how you look great in this defense that is so safety-heavy without having enough time in it, like McDermott talks about all the time. But I do think that there is something to be said for McDermott has had similar comments about young players in the past that have come around and really performed and turned into solid players like Terrell Bernard.
Yeah, 100%. So even beyond Bishop, all right? So there's still concerns about him. Taylor Rapp is a locked-in, solid starter, but he's also prone to getting banged up and missing time. We've seen that.
Right.
In fact, the last 2 years when the Bills have lost in the playoffs, he hasn't played in either of those games. And Damar Hamlin is what he is. I don't really feel the need to elaborate. He's
Right.
fundamentally sound. He does some good things well. He is a glaring lack of athleticism that gets, unfortunately exploited at times. And then the rookie, I like Jordan Hancock a lot. I think Sean McDermott likes him a lot, but I also get a strong sense that Sean wants to slow play with him. Not to mention he is coming off a bit of a shoulder injury now as well. I don't think Sean McDermott wants to have him on the field much, if at all, as a starter this year. So you enter Jordan Poyer, who kind of point number 2 is, unlike Hyde, I know enough about Jordan Poyer that he's signing before week 1. He's going to mentor. He will do everything he can to help that safety room off the field. But make no mistake about it, he's here to play at some point. I don't think he plans on being on the practice squad for 17 weeks in the playoffs and not being an on-field factor at all for the Bills. I think that's his line of thinking, which kind of leads to the last thing. You mentioned this, and I'll be fair, Owen. Look, sometimes you could be playing through injuries or personal problems that the world doesn't know about. Not everything gets reported. Right. Sometimes maybe your heart's just not in it. It's pretty obvious he loves Miami, but he did not love being a Dolphin, and that's pretty damn obvious. So there's lots of factors. But add them all up, bottom line, dude was awful last year with Miami. And I paid attention because because when Damar Hamlin was starting, especially, I was just waiting to rip into Brandon Beane that our safety room's awful, and look what Jordan Poyer's doing. He's thriving in Miami. So I paid attention to him. I watched them all 22, paid attention to the PFF grades, highlights, and he just was not good at all. It wasn't
the same.
Nope. So I'm concerned that people, and maybe even the Bills for that matter, that they're in love with the thought of Jordan Poyer as much or more than the actual player and what he may have left.
Yeah, and I mean, even in his last year with the Bills, you saw them start to change how they were using him a little bit. They were sliding him down deeper into closer to the line of scrimmage, sort of a faux linebacker spot at times. Yeah. And I think that was due to the fact that they knew he was not at the same level that he had been at his all-pro peak. He just doesn't have the speed anymore that he used to have. And I even, this is crazy that I'm remembering a specific play, but I'm remembering a play where he's down in the box and it looks like he should be angling a sort of a wide halfback toss play, and he got burned on the outside. And that was the moment I said, this is probably it for him. This is not working anymore. And he doesn't have the legs anymore. And he had a wonderful career for the Bills. I love him. But you've got to be objective about this stuff when you're analyzing the team. And if he is on the field, it is going to cost them at some point, I would think, because he just does not have the speed that he used to have and that you need to have in the NFL today.
I agree. And Bruce wrong. I'm sure you feel the same way. I'd be happy to be wrong.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people out there to say, well, I'd still rather have him out there than Damar Hamlin in a big game. And you know what? I'm not going to push back on that so much, because saying that Jordan Poyer can run, well, are you saying Damar Hamlin can? I mean, you know what I mean?
I get that.
Anyway, in terms of what's funny is, I thought Jordan Phillips getting signed by the Bills was kind of a shock. It certainly was when we thought originally he was going to be on the 53, and then we quickly found out that it's, the 90-man ultimately practice squad. So kind of, less is a shock a little bit, but it's funny. It's like, well, that didn't even last 24 hours before being the biggest shock signing that the Bills love bringing those guys back too. They just love it, man.
I mean, we yesterday had a segment on the show Jeremy come up with called Future Bill or Past Bills to Become Future Bills. And me, Josh Schmidt, and Jeremy and Joe drafted guys we believe will at some point re-sign with the Bills. And I think in the same segment, Rasul Douglas, who Josh took first overall, signed with the Dolphins.
Yeah.
And then today, Joe took Jordan Poyer with his second pick, so we all had to pay Joe with some money today. So we got waiver wires going on. It's a whole operation over there. So yeah, I mean they do it a lot. I think I haven't. I'd have to really crunch the numbers and find out, but I got to imagine that they do it more than any other NFL team. I mean, Levi Wallace is in town. We might have another one or two of these things. Gabe Davis visited last week. I mean, this happens a lot with this team. And, you can pick on them for it if you want. If it makes sense, it makes sense. But sure. I do think that the retread thing can get very old, especially if you're doing it in spots that matter for the team.
Yeah. Well, I'll say this about Brandon Beane. If for whatever reason the safety position is a weakness this year, and if Jordan Poyer is not an asset on the field to, the issue, and they signed Derek Forrest, that was just an unmitigated disaster. I don't know why, but it never got off the ground. Brandon Beane's he will have earned some criticism for that safety room and what he's done or hasn't done with that room. Oh, and now I'll say this. In terms of the roster cuts, no real surprises to me at all, literally. Like, no. Maybe KJ Hamler's a teeny weeny.
He was never going to make the team over Shavers or more. It just wasn't going to happen.
Agreed. Now, what I did here through some people here on Wednesday, because there were a couple practice squad additions or kind of lack of thereof with a few guys that people were expecting. And like Mike White and KJ Hamler are two people, I think everyone expected them to get cut, but also brought back on the practice squad. What I learned from talking to somebody is that, so you have the vested veteran rule. Each NFL team is only allowed 6 veterans, and by veterans, it's 2 fully accrued seasons in the league. And each team is allowed a maximum of 6 players on the practice squad. And with the Bills, the reason why I've heard, the biggest reason there's no Mike White or Hamler back is because of those 6. Sam Franklin, special teams guy, Kendrick Green, Dan Feeney, 2 offensive linemen, depth guys, Dane Jackson, and now Phillips and Poyer. That's 6. So a guy like KJ Hamler or Mike White, they are vested veterans. The Bills, if the Bills were going to sign KJ Hamler to the practice squad, they can't just cut anybody. Like they can't cut, let's just say the linebacker for fun, Jimmy Charlo. They can't cut him and put they would have to 6 veterans. They would have to cut one of those 6 guys. But and anyway,
those players that the Bills cut now are free to sign with any team, right? That they are as veterans offered the right. They can go sign wherever they want for an NFL contract. Because those veterans have earned that sort of right to get past the practice squad.
Correct. So, at this point now the roster, they might tinker and they might make a move. We'll see. But it's pretty much set, and I got an opinion, and I want to know if you agree with this. I think personally that this team is better this year on paper right now. I feel, now, will they have the same results? 2nd seed, make it to the AFC Championship? That I obviously can't guarantee you that. But I think this is a better football team right now than it was a year ago.
I agree. I believe the roster is better. But I don't know how much that really matters. It's not going to be so much better that it's going to win them more games. I don't think it's improved by that amount. And if you want to live by the everybody eats, we can live with Josh, he'll keep us going. And if we have a poor roster, he'll make it work. Then you can't assume the other way is going to apply differently. Like if their roster is that much better, how much difference is that going to make? Because you think the roster doesn't matter in the negative, then it's not going to make that big of a difference on the positive side. And so I believe that they are better as a roster, only slightly because of the addition of a Josh Palmer and because of the defensive line rookies that they've added. But does that win them another game? I don't know. I don't tend to think so. I think that what it really comes down to is whether they can rise in the big moments that they have failed to rise in the past.
Yeah.
I don't know that the difference between Josh Palmer and Mac Hollins is enough to beat the Chiefs in that game last year. I don't really think it is. And so back to that point, like if you think the roster is not going to hurt them, you can't think that it's going to help them that much.
That's fair.
So you can't have it both ways. And so that's what I've been thinking about these past few days. I've been hearing people talk about this debate. Like, is the roster better? Is it worse? Is it the same? I don't really care how much better the roster is. You didn't get worse? All right, we're good. It all comes down to the end of the year. That's what it's been in this city the past 3, 4, 5 years, and that's not going to change with Josh at the helm. It's just not going to happen unless you build an all-star true. You bring in a Micah Parsons. That is the only kind of roster change that is truly going to impact your result at the end of the year. You're going to win 12, 13, 14 games. You're going to win 2, 3 playoff games. It just matters whether you can rise in that moment at the end of the year.
I think when it comes to this organization and an exercise that Joe DiBiase and I did on the show just a couple of days ago, ESPN did a positional ranking, and they did 1 through 32 for each team in the league at every position. And the Bills were 3rd overall in the league. I'm like, well, okay. But when you went through positionally, they were mid, or in a lot of cases, worse at most positions. And we overanalyze so much. We microanalyze so many things. We find things, when you're on the air, you're producing every day. I'm doing a show 5 days a week. You're always searching for things to grab onto, to talk about, because you don't want to talk about the same thing day after day after day after day. You don't want to keep beating a dead horse all the time. But when it comes to this football team, it is really pretty simple. If Josh Allen continues to play at an MVP level like he has the past couple of years, the Bills are going to be very much in the mix. And can they make that 1, 2, or 3 plays on offense, or make that 1 or 2 stops in defense in a playoff game that's going to get them over the hump? That's what it comes down to. Some of these other teams, Baltimore and Philly, and to a lesser extent, Kansas City, they're positionally better than the Bills in other areas of the team. Josh, we don't talk about we talk about pressure. We're going to talk about pressure earlier in this show. We want to talk about the weight of the world being on somebody's shoulders. The Buffalo Bills are just a pretty decent football team with, this is my opinion, you could feel free to disagree. I think the Bills are a pretty decent football team with an all-world quarterback who's arguably the best player in the league right now.
I mean, is that not the definition of what their identity is with Everybody Eats? I think they own that. They know that. Yeah. It's about the fact that everybody here contributes, because there's not one guy that's going to make that difference other than Josh. And I think that they have owned that, and good for them. You don't want to be in denial about how good your roster is. You work with what you've got and you do what you can. And they've done a wonderful job of that. I give them a ton of credit for being able to operate the way they did last year without a premier wide receiver on the roster. And good for them for owning that and recognizing that and finding their way to win despite it. But it doesn't change the fact that the roster is not impressive in the way that the Eagles roster is, and it's not dominant everywhere else. But what Josh Allen and what Brandon Beane has afforded himself is a quarterback who makes up for that. And you deserve credit for that. I don't think that you should take anything away from them for being able to operate this way. You can debate whether it's the right way to operate. I tend to think that maybe you do want somebody that can really explode and make plays. But it works, and they're going to do it. And they're going to win 12, 13, 14 games like we always talk about. And it just really comes down to, will they get it done when they need to?
Yeah.
That will be the story about this team until they do it. And if they don't, that will be the definition of this team and of everyone involved with this team. And so there's pressure there, like we talk about. Absolutely. And a lot of it falls onto Allen because of that identity.
Last thing here with the Bills, I think, listen, and I'm going on the assumption, obviously Josh stays healthy and they don't have any crazy injuries or anything like that. But offensively, I think they will be good enough. I could see them in the playoff. And look, they're good enough to win their division. They're good enough to win a wild card round. I'm talking about getting the divisional round or the championship game. I think the offense, whether they're playing Baltimore, Kansas City, some Denver, whoever, somebody else, this offense is good enough with Josh Allen playing at the level he is. They're going to score 21 to 30 points regardless of who they're playing. It comes down to the defense and more specifically a few stops. And there's
Yep.
one thing I feel great about that's different from last year. And there's one thing I feel very concerned about that's the same as last year and maybe even worse. What I feel good about is two young pass rushing interior defensive tackles, I think, who are going to be much better depth wise than a year ago. I think Sanders and especially Walker are going to be better than, say, Jordan Phillips, although Jordan Phillips had the defensive play of the game in Arrowhead last year in the AFC title game. Who knows? Maybe Jordan Phillips will be out there for that game too.
Yeah.
But anyway, him, Quentin Jefferson, Jawan Smart, or who the hell was it? Jacksonville former guy. Smoot. Yeah. The depth is better this time around. And big if, but so far so good, if Joey Bosa stays healthy.
Yeah.
I mean, dude, this ain't AJ Epinesa out there, man. This is a guy who's done some good things in this league. He played good in the playoffs last year for the Chargers against Houston. Bosa, a better defensive tackle position. They could cause more problems for a quarterback, which the Bills have done none of in the playoff losses. That's the good. Here's the bad, though, Owen. I thought Russell Douglas last year at times was starting to become a liability. Man, Trey White scares me, dude. Trey White scares me. Max Harrison may or may not be the starter at the end of the year. A rookie, though, who's missed a lot of the summer, and that might hurt him. I'm not going to say it's going to make his rookie year a complete wash, but
I would be surprised if he's playing before halfway through the season.
Me too. Oh, me too.
He's missing these first 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And then you're not going to throw him in there week 5. Right. He's going to need a couple weeks to ramp up. So I would be stunned if they are starting him or playing him in significant snaps before week 9, 10 of the season.
100%. So we talked about the safety position earlier, which we talked about. So you get that, and then you add Trey White, who I still have questions, or it could be Dane Jackson, it could be Jamarcus Ingram, or Max Harrison as a rookie. There's a lot of concerns in that secondary that they're not going to be any better than they've been the past couple years. It's concerning, man. It just really is.
And, we talk about it like we are always looking for things to think about with the team, right? They're not exactly interesting all the time. They're just good all the time. Yeah. And that can be boring. So, there is a factor in this that we blow up these things into more significant problems than they need to be sometimes. But the third down defense was a problem last year. And if they do not get better play from their secondary, it will be a problem again this year. Because I love what Deion Walker and TJ Sanders have brought. I really do. I think Joey Bosa can be a really nice piece. I don't think that line is going to be so dominant that they're going to cover up for that if that secondary is the same as it was last year or even worse. I don't think that almost any D-line can really cover up for that kind of play in the secondary. And so I have gone back and forth on thinking, like, am I really that worried about it? Do I really care? It matters. It's going to matter how good Trey White looks. And I'm concerned about it too. I don't see how you could be without being a little naive. Yeah. He's old and he's had a lot of bad injuries and he's hurt again now. That's not a good recipe for a guy to go bounce back and look better than he's looked, which is what the Bills need from him. And so I'm worried about it. And I think that it's valid to be worried about that.
100%. Look, put it this way, dude. If they're playing the Chiefs or the Ravens in the playoffs and you got AJ Epinesa out there because Bosa got hurt and you got Trey White and Damar Hamlin or Poyer out there with that lack of speed and athleticism, they're going to get burned. And here's the thing.
Yeah.
Optimistically, your best case scenario you're thinking in your head is, all right, well, I'll tell you what. If either Bishop or Hancock, and we're going into December now, if one of those guys is starting alongside a healthy Rap, either Bishop or Hancock, because I like both of them. I love Jordan Hancock. I just don't know that he's ready now. And Max Harrison does come back week 8 after the bye. And week 14, 15, 16, all right, we're starting to see why this was a first-round pick. He's running across the field with Xavier Worthy. You know what I mean? Right. Other corners can't do that. No. And Joey Bosa's healthy, and he can get you some pass rush. And by the way, Michael Hoyt, who I do think is going to have a role on this team,
Yes.
That's where you really could carry the optimism, that this could be the year that the Bills get over the hump. But those things gotta
Yep.
fall into place, man. You gotta
Agreed.
count on Hancock and Bishop and Bosa. You know what I mean? Some guys who are new to this team to
Right.
get over that hump. All right, one last thing before I let you go.
Yeah.
I got you on. I got a former goalie here, man. I got to sneak a little hockey talk in with you, man. Let me ask you this question, because when we get to the Sabres offseason, the one thing I thought I could count on that would have happened by now, and I'm not saying it's not going to happen. Let me be clear about that. But, players come, players go, trades, free agent signings, whatever it was going to be. I thought on July 2nd that Alex Tuch would have signed an extension with this team. I mean, he's Mr. Sabre. I love this team. I love this organization. They certainly, have all the motivation to want to do that. But yeah, here we are. Where are we? And near the end of August now.
Yeah.
Now, again, not that it won't get done before the season or during the season, but are you a little bit surprised that Alex Tuch hasn't got an extension? And does that concern you about what he may think about this organization, that he hasn't signed his name on an extension? Surely they've had interest in talks in it, I would think.
You gotta hope that the team wants him to stay because he's one of their best players. But you never know. It's the Sabres. So I would feel a lot better about them if he had a contract signed.
Yeah.
Do I think that it means he's not going to sign one? Not necessarily. I think that there's a real chance that what he really wants is to get into this season and see if they're a joke again or not.
Right.
Because I don't think he wants to sign up for 6, 7, 8 years of what this team has been. And I think that if he was able to just pick himself, he would wait until he knows what this team looks like this year. Because I think that this year for the Sabres, it's a heavy year. I have a hard time believing some of the top guys for that team will be willing to stick around if there's another season just come and gone of done in November. I would be really surprised if you don't see one of the major core pieces want out, if that's the case again, and that Tuch is included in that group. And so I'm not surprised that he hasn't signed one. I get it. If I was him, I probably would do the same thing. I got to see what you can do, because you have not proven to me that this organization can do right by me. Not in a contract. I know you can pay me the money, which even that is questioned at times. But I think that you have to show him, hey, we're worthy of your final years of being a real impact NHL player. And I get that. I don't blame him for that. I wouldn't blame any of the guys for that. And I'm thinking about it almost every day, which is a psychotic thing to do in August. Like I'm a freak, but I think about it all the time. Like I'm worried about that team. They need to play well, because if they don't, it would be very easy for that group of guys to go, all right, man, we're shot. This is it. This is what this place is. And that'll be it. And that's, I don't even want to think about what that means, because that team just cannot handle another year of this, because I think it would lead to a whole other rebuild that is not. I'm getting a migraine just thinking about it.
Well, yeah. You know what? I mean, I'm with you 1,000% here, and that's what scares me. It's not that this team is at a long drought and that they're not good. I mean, that shit sucks, and that does scare me too. But my mindset is, all right, like you go to this summer, like the JJ Peterka thing, and we're not going to evaluate the trade or any of that stuff. That's old news at this point. But the fact is, after only a couple of years, he clearly didn't want to be here. He didn't want to be here. And whatever, you could, maybe it's not the Sabres' fault that he didn't want to be here. Maybe some of that's on JJ Peterka and just his character, okay? We'll give the organization the benefit of the doubt there, whether they deserve it or not. But if somebody like Alex Tuch is starting to doubt if he wants to be here, That shit does scare me. And you're right, dude. If they fall out early, especially, and it's January, mid-January, and they're toast already, and you got to start worrying about, is Rasmus Dahlin going to get really public, with his desire to get out of here, or is that going to happen with Tage Thompson or any of these other guys? It's a very scary thought. So that's why I'm concerned right now about Tage. All right, folks, I think, to make a long story short, something happened on Owens, and I lost him, which is okay, because I was going to ask him a quick goalie question about the new goalie, Alex Lyons, of course. Owen being a former goalie himself, I was hoping to get some insight on him when it comes to that. But aside from that, we were done with the show. We're almost in fact, we are a full hour in anyway. So on that note, I am going to wrap up this episode. And I thank you so much for watching, for listening. Appreciate you all. Brand new show coming up. Thank you very much as well to Owen Power. Owen Power. See, I said it. God damn it, I said it. Dude, I said it. I told you I was going to say it at least once. It's Owen Parker, not Owen Power. Anyway, big thank you. Big shout out, Owen. I'll be back. Brand new show, folks, tomorrow.